Hello there. Welcome back to another United review live on the AgostinhoZinga channel. I hope you are doing well wherever this may find you. I hope you're doing well. I don't do a lot of these match review things because usually I don't have time and I'm always busy. But seeing as I've got a bit of time and I'm not so busy, I'm going to do a match review for you today, describing some of my thoughts and feelings regarding United's recent match against Norwich in the Premier League. Now, we won 1-0, so let's not be negative. Let's not be negative Nancy's. We did win 1-0. It was a pretty decent result, all things considered, but there's still some concerning parts if you are a United fan and if you are hoping or if you was under the illusion that somehow Ralph Rangnick was going to come in and suddenly turn this team into playing Ajax-level football, champagne football, and they were suddenly going to start winning the Premier League at a canter without even trying. That definitely wasn't going to be the case. There's definitely a lot of holes in our squad to fill in. There's definitely a lot of players that probably need a change of temperament, a change of attitude. And I think in general, our fan base in general, overall, worldwide, needs a little bit of a re-education as to what they should be looking for when it comes to a good, well-oiled machine as a team. I think at the moment we're still sort of hung up on this whole individual FC. We've got these flipping accounts on social media that are kind of the fan pages of particular players. We kind of pit them against our own players for some whatever really weird reason that happens. But I think slowly but surely over time, as soon as we kind of change maybe our recruitment policy and maybe we start to get in a couple of victories, we might actually start changing into one of those teams that don't exactly, one of those fan bases that aren't that worried or that enamored with the individual players and are more kind of worried about the collective good of our overall team. Now, going for the game itself, I have to be honest, lineup-wise, I wasn't that disappointed. I think the lineup picks itself, especially considering our last couple of performances. I was glad again to see Dalot and Telles playing as fullbacks. I think despite their indeficiencies, despite their shortcomings, I still think we need a player or players of that sort of ilk, of that sort of template in terms of a fullback, more so than the Luke Shaws and Aaron Wan-Bissakas. It feels like to me, the Aaron Wan-Bissakas and Luke Shaws in terms of fullback, in terms of their style, that style is maybe antiquated, it's a little bit dated. It probably needs a move on. Those players might play better for teams who need to defend a lot more. That's why probably we saw the best of Aaron Wan-Bissaka playing for Crystal Palace because he was under the cosh more often. But I'm just not even sure if Aaron Wan-Bissaka will be as good of a player for Crystal Palace as they're playing now, where they're being a little bit more proactive, a little bit more pragmatic, but still, a lot of these teams do need their fullbacks to be an attacking outlet because they do basically act as two quote-unquote cheap players you can use in your attack. And considering United are trying to compete with the top three teams in the league at the moment, Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea, we're going to need all the help that we can get. So we can't have two defenders just defending and in that position in fullback. We need them to be able to defend and also be able to attack. It's a lot to ask, I know, but at the moment, what we have with Dalot and what we have with Telles is probably the best solution so far in terms of going forward. The centre-back pairing, of course, is always going to pick itself. Maguire is never going to get dropped, despite his standards maybe not being as high as they should be. Lindelof is obviously a good partner for him in the midfield. Again, persisting with McTominay and Fred, which I have a problem with, but considering the options available, I don't think he had much to choose from. Match is already injured, and the other midfield, and Donny van der Beek probably can't play the position. He probably has to play further forward. Fine. The only issue I had with it, in my problem with it in general, was the two number 10s being Sancho and Bruno. The fact that they both don't play the same way. The fact that Sancho needs players closer to him to play better. The fact that Bruno seems to thrive the more distance there is between players and himself because he can pass the ball and then run into space. Didn't really seem to fit stylistically. And also Rashford and Ronaldo up front, I didn't like either because I feel like Ronaldo isn't necessarily a good target man or a good front man in terms of occupying people. And I don't think Rashford has got good enough ball retention to make enough time to get Ronaldo in position so that he could pass the ball to him. It just didn't seem like that was a great solution. And obviously, I think that was kind of proved to be correct. I don't think we saw much of our attacking third at all. We struggled to get control of the ball. Norwich played really well too, to be honest. They did defend really deep. They basically defended with a low block, didn't give us much space in the midfield or the attack, and then tried to hit us on the counter or tried to punish us on a set piece. Luckily, we defended our set pieces pretty well, but let's not make any bones about it. Although I wouldn't say we were lucky to get away with the win, I still think Norwich played their part in making the game very, very, very ugly. They didn't really give us space. They didn't really give us opportunity to kind of gather a head of steam. We didn't really seem to have any momentum. We didn't seem to have any concerted periods of attack. They broke up all of our passing in the midfield. We couldn't. There was a period of time, I think it was like a 10-15 minute period in the second half where we were struggling to get the ball out of midfield. All the passes were sort of kind of coming off of people, ricocheting off people's shins, and just mucking around, bouncing around all the time. And it wasn't necessarily working the best way. So I think Norwich played their part in that regard. But also, let's go back to it. Ralph Rangnick's done a lot so far. He's obviously shown us that good coaching does matter. I think a lot of our fan base, people like the Stretford Paddock, people like Stephen Howson on there, were telling us for the longest time that managers don't make a big difference. And the only reason why Solskjaer wasn't successful, one of the reasons why he wasn't successful at United at that time, was because he didn't have enough good players. So if we give this manager enough time and good players, eventually he'll get it right. And obviously that's Looney Tunes, because it's modern day football. The money involved, the pressure, the fans' expectation does not allow for managers to stay as long as Sir Alex Ferguson stayed, Arsene Wenger stayed, or managers prior to that. It's not going to happen ever again. We're not going to be able to turn the wheel of the time back again, the same way how we're not going to be able to go back to a time and place where Arsene Wenger was able to pick up Colo Torre for like £7 million, whatever it was. That time has been and gone. If that's the case, you're going to have good managers who can make an instant impact. You're also going to have a manager. You're also going to have to be a club that kind of builds a team or builds a squad, regardless of who your manager is, and you have like an overlaying vision or an overarching vision that the kind of director of football and whatever sorts out, so that even if you go for a barren spell, you can just keep getting different managers in who suit that style of play, as opposed to just turning the whole ship around and changing it based on the manager's needs. I think that's the issue we have. So at the moment, Ralph Rangnick is basically playing with 4 different manager players. He's got players from Oli Solskjaer's reign, Mourinho's reign. Is there any player there from Van Gaal's reign? I don't think so. But still, there's a lot of players there, right? That he's having to kind of wrangle through from different type of systems, different ways of playing, blah, 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 blah. It's not working as well. So I think what we're seeing as a fan base is that the players that we kind of overhype a lot of our players. We think more of them than what they actually are. And also, a lot of our players are getting away with murder. A lot of our players don't necessarily put in the necessary effort, the concentration levels, the intensity needed to kind of get those kind of victories or performances. Now we're seeing a little bit more of it. I think with a new manager in charge, people are feeling a little bit more accountable. They're feeling a lot more seen. They're basically not hiding behind the manager because there's no place to hide. And they're obviously playing for their own future. So that's good to see. But I think overall, especially when you look at the games that we see prior, Liverpool played, the Man City's played, the Chelsea played, there's no denying that there's a real lack of technical quality when it comes to our players in the top 3. So it's not coincidence that we are where we're at the league. We are where we are on merit. The same way how you don't win the league by fluke is the same way how you're not in the position that we are by fluke either. Let's get that one completely clear. If that's the case, then I think going forward what we need to see is a change in direction of how we approach football or recruitment in general as a football club. I want to see us go less for marquee names and more for players that can basically do a job. Players that are specialists in their roles. Players who are maybe, who can maybe play several different positions. But good technical football players has to be the core of what we're going after. Not names, not stats, just good technical football players. So then what happens is that even if the manager doesn't work out, you can get another one in and you don't need to overhaul the entire squad because you have a good base of players. Just get a different manager in who can maybe enhance on the system, refine it, wherever it may be, so you can get back successful. Because I think the prior solution or the prior way we were doing things clearly didn't work. I didn't like the lack of chances we didn't create, but also I anticipated that Norwich were going to defend deep. They were going to defend in the low block. They were going to try and be solid and compact, and I guess they were. Dean Smith's doing a good job so far at Norwich. I think he's basically proven that maybe Norwich should have made the move for him sooner, but obviously Daniel Farke had obviously done a great job for them too. He got them back in the league. You know what I mean? They got relegated. He got them back in there again, first time trying. So they did owe him a bit of loyalty in terms of letting him get it right, but there's no denying that Dean Smith's approach with Norwich, trying to make them hard to beat first, and then trying to get them to hurt teams on the counter or on the set piece, is a far better option for a team of Norwich's ability than what Daniel Farke was trying to do. Daniel Farke was trying to remind me of what Roberto Martinez was trying to do at Wigan. He was trying to get them to play the ball out from the back, try and play champagne football, tiki-taki football. It's never going to work with that sort of team. So that was great to see. I was happy to see him go for that in that kind of regard. And then going forward, I think as a team, we weren't really cohesive. We were struggling to put five plasters together basically as a team. Everyone seemed to really struggle in terms of getting their foot on the ball. Our centre backs were kind of all over the place. I felt like Timo Pukki, despite his height and despite his stature, was getting a lot of joy out of a lot of our centre backs, which is obviously something that you don't want to see. I thought Sargent was really testing Dalot. I thought Dalot played really well. I think not really well. I think Dalot played okay. He's probably his best defensive performance I've seen with United so far. I like Telles as well against Max Aarons. I think he played really well. He seemed to be really pumped in the aspect of keeping a clean sheet and keeping that guy away from basically having the ability to maybe punish us on the overlap. So that was great to see. But I still think in general, in terms of the centre-back pairing, I think it needs to be said that clearly Harry Maguire is not going anywhere. He's a club captain. He's England captain, or he's a marquee player for England. There's no chance that he gets sold anytime soon. So if that's the case, and we're going to stick with Harry Maguire, we need to play a ball-playing centre half next to him. Somebody that's comfortable coming out from the back. Somebody that's comfortable spraying balls out left to the right with their right foot or left foot. Whoever that player is, they need to come in sooner sharply, especially as an option when Varane gets injured, because he seems to get injured quite often, right? So if that's the case, we have to have a player coming off the bench that can do that. And then secondly, it's also clear to me from what I saw that Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly don't get on, because as soon as Eric Bailly came on, there was no communication between two centre backs in terms of who to carry, who to kind of mark. Eric Bailly immediately came on and made several mistakes that I think could have been sorted if he was kind of had a speaking to, hey, what's going on? Where should I go? But he came on and just tried to defend, and obviously got skinned a couple of times, missed the ball, was out of position and just struggled. And then I think for the last 10 minutes or so, most of Norwich's good play came from the side that Eric Bailly was on. But I clearly think that there's an issue between Harry Maguire and Eric Bailly. And I don't think you can get away with having two centre-backs that hate each other. Maybe as strikers you can. I know there was stories of, is it Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham or something not liking each other, and they still were able to play up front with each other, fair. But I don't think you can have two centre-backs not liking each other as people, or not rating each other as human beings, and also being two starting centre-backs for United. You're going to have to make a change. If everybody is not the deputy that you want, get another centre-back in that can deputise for both Lindelof and Maguire, and let them be a ball-playing centre-back who could also come in and maybe fill in for Varane when and if he gets injured. Again, going to midfield, Bruno Fernandes had an absolute shocker. I know some people have heard already Stephen Housen making excuses, saying that how he's trying to make things happen in the final third. Yes, we can appreciate people trying to make things happen, but his general play, the issue I have with Bruno isn't him trying to make things happen. It's him being a midfielder. He's just not that good. He's not as good as people think he is as a midfielder. If people have complaints about someone like a Kevin De Bruyne in terms of him maybe having 5 or 6 good games per season, I don't see how you can also look at Bruno and make excuses. De Bruyne's been doing it for longer and on a consistent and quote-unquote more consistent basis than Bruno has, but he still gets looked at with a bit of a side eye because he generally does disappear from games. He generally is a player. If he's not being able to do those crosses from the right-hand side into the box, he definitely looks quite average. And he definitely is not be able to run in the box. Same thing happens to him. And Bruno's the same thing too. Bruno doesn't seem to have the ability to put his foot on the ball, the ability to feint past the defender, the ability to dribble past somebody, the ability to pick a pass. All those things you need as a number 10 or as a number 8 that to make you kind of press resistant, so you can kind of hold off players and suck a couple of in and then kind of ping the ball over the other side and then you take them out of the game. All those little things you need at that midfield position, he doesn't have it. Again, it's not his fault, but he doesn't have it, which is why you see him do this thing a lot of times. Whenever the ball gets played into his feet, he'll just kick it out straight away, right? He just kind of look to get it away. So he's clearly scanning his shoulders or checking his shoulders before he receives the ball. So he has the option to kind of spray it out and get it to other people who maybe are better placed to hold on to the ball. So he was very concerning. Rashford as well, super concerning. His level performance when another player who doesn't look terribly great when he's not scoring goals. That's very concerning. Who else I think was obviously Ronaldo, completely, anonymous for the most of the game. But then when we need him most, he gets on the wrong side of Max Aarons. Max Aarons is inexperienced, gets the best of him. He panics, tries to pull Ronaldo back, and then we win the penalty. And of course, Ronaldo buries that penalty and sends Tim Krul the wrong way, despite Tim Krul's all his histrionics and kind of games that he was playing, trying to put Ronaldo off. So clearly there's some holes and gaps in our team, but we seem to be weirdly functional. We seem to be working still. I didn't really understand the Jadon Sancho substitution at the time that it happened. I feel like if it would have happened, it would have happened beforehand, because obviously he was anonymous before. But I felt that just at the 60th mark, he started to get a bit of momentum, started to become a bit more confident. He was getting on the board a bit more. Maybe that's because he knew it was coming off, but he seemed to be a little bit more confident. And like I said, out of him and Rashford, he seemed to be the one player who actually looked like could actually cause Norwich problems. He was going on the right, he was coming in the middle, he was floating on the left. Rashford just looked terrible. He couldn't control the ball, he couldn't pass the ball, his dribbling was off, like he just looks bad. I don't know what's his injury, what's going on with him, but he didn't look great also. I didn't really get that substitution. And then Bruno, for whatever reason, survived for like 88 minutes. Like, I'm also going to think again, in draft I trust, but I'm hoping this is only just a stopgap because he wants to obviously make sure that we get wins under our belt. He's going to stick with the players that are obviously doing a good job for the previous manager and obviously try and drill them as much as he can. But surely there must come a time where you look at it and think to yourself, how does Bruno keep getting away with these terrible performances and not being able to kind of get taken out of the team? He got taken out, I think, once in that game when Van der Beek came in. But apart from that, his performances don't get punished the same way Van der Beek's performances get punished. Van der Beek plays one bad pass, quote-unquote bad pass to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was looking the other way in the Champions League. They score from that bad pass, and then suddenly he shouldn't be starting games anymore. Maybe not in that deep lying position, but he's clearly more competent as a football player or as a midfielder in that position than the Bruno is, and probably be able to offer a lot more to our team going forward. You'd hope so. But that aside, again, like I said, no real complaints for me. I think a pretty decent performance. Crap performance, great result, as I mentioned in the title. I think that's the most important thing going forward. We've got some tough games coming up. Let me just double check in terms of other teams that we're facing, but I'm pretty sure we're not facing any kind of, no marks, even though, again, they should be games that we should win on paper. I think a lot of these teams we're playing are either fighting for their lives or have stuff to play for, and the games during Christmas come thick and fast. A lot of the lower teams like this period of football because it's also a time to accumulate points and maybe get yourself away from safety, maybe get secure safety, or maybe kind of get yourself up in a league so that you can basically not worry too much. So our next games coming up, we've got Brentford away, we've got Brighton at home, Newcastle away, Burnley at home, and then Wolves at home, right? No, well, in December, sorry. Brentford, Brighton, Newcastle, Burnley. On paper, we should be winning all of those games, but they're also difficult games, right? We've got Brighton, who are kind of back. I think they've got a bit of confidence under their sails. You've got Newcastle, of course, under new ownership with a new manager, trying to make things happen. And you've got Burnley also, who are in the bottom three, trying to make things happen too. So we're facing teams who are legitimately fighting for their lives. So I think there's going to be a little bit of pragmatism involved. As much as I know I could feel like Ragnick would want to be a little bit more experimental and play more kids and do whatever, I think he's going to get, especially if he wants to keep the job, because there's a feeling he definitely wants a job full time. If that's the case, don't be surprised as a United fan if we see a lot more pragmatic football, we see a lot more containment, we see a lot more compactness, we just see a lot more, let's just get over the line and get this December period over the line. And then once we go over the line with that part, we can then have a bit of a break and chill for a bit, because until then, it's going to be thick and fast football. It's not going to get any better, and we're still going to be where we are. But again, the result is always important at this moment in time, at this moment of year. I'm happy with it. I think we did okay. Let's kind of hope for better things going forward, and we're able to put in a much better performance against some of the other teams coming up in there. Again, this has been the AgostinhoZinga show. No, Agostino match review. Agostino match review. I keep saying Agostino Zinga show, but again, you know how it is. This is the Agostino match review about United winning away from home against Norwich. Thanks again for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to have your company. If you liked the video and you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you leave a comment regarding my thoughts on United and what I have to say. If you disagree, then please let me know. Also, I'd be pleasantly eager to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Take care. Be safe. Peace.